Shocking truth about real happiness. Are you truly happy or just pretending forever? In a small town where smiles were painted on faces like cheap varnish, a dark secret whispered through the streets. People laughed, danced, and posted pictures of perfect lives, but behind closed doors, shadows loomed. One woman, Clara, stood by her window every evening, watching the sun drown in the horizon like a sinking heart, waiting for something or someone to break the façade. What if happiness was truly a mask, and everyone was just borrowed joy, like an old coat that didn't quite fit? Clara's neighbors were the picture of charm. Mrs. Jenkins baked cookies that were always warm. The kids played tag, their giggles flooding the air like fireworks. But Clara felt an unsettling tension as she noticed how their eyes darted away when she crossed paths with them. Each evening, they all bore the burden of their own secrets, pretending to be fine while inside they were shivering achingly alone. Just last week, the town held its annual fair, but as the laughter rang out, Clara caught a glimpse of Timmy, the boy who never smiled anymore, hiding under a table, a tear staining his cheek. He was only 10, yet the world had spun around him so fast that he lost his grip. Clara approached him slowly. "What's wrong, buddy?" He just shook his head, pulling his knees closer. Why were they all pretending? And then there were the rumors, the strange events. Disappearances. 3 people vanished from the town without a trace, as if they were shadows flickering away in the night. Last seen in the best cafe, the one where all the smiles were the brightest. Everybody said they were happy. What happened when the facade cracked? What dark truth lay at the center of it all? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The daylight faded, and Clara felt that familiar tightness in her chest. She needed answers. With a trembling hand, she reached for her phone, determined. What if the smiles were nothing but masks hiding a more profound pain? She had to discover the truth. Was it too late to unmask the happiness that was merely pretend? The cool night air wrapped around her as she stepped out, drawn into the mystery waiting just beyond her front door. Clara stepped into the night, a sense of urgency thrumming through her veins. The street lamps flickered overhead, casting long shadows that combined with the darkness to twist them into eerie shapes. Every corner held secrets, every whisper in the wind felt like a warning. She could have turned back. She could have stayed in the safety of her home. But something deeper, an innate curiosity tinged with dread, drove her forward. The town felt alive yet hollow, the laughter of the fair too cheerful, too desperate. Clara headed towards the cafe, the epicenter of the town's infectious joy, at least on the surface. As she approached, her heart raced not just with fear but with anticipation. What if she found answers behind the vibrant neon signs? What if the truth was lurking there, waiting in the shadows? The familiar bell chimed as she entered, its sound echoing in the air like a warning. The place was bustling, yet the laughter felt forced. An air of desperation lingered between the sips of coffee and bites of pastries. Clara scanned the room, searching for a familiar face. Then her gaze landed on Mrs. Jenkins, who was engaged in a lively conversation but avoided eye contact as Clara passed. Her mouth formed into a painted smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Cracking under the pressure. Clara whispered to herself, but her voice caught in her throat. The words felt too loud, filled with an eerie truth. She maneuvered past tables, where friends joked and families gathered. But the laughter rang hollow, like echoes in an empty chamber. Her mind raced, thinking of Timmy and the others who had disappeared. Was this all a game of pretending? Was joy just a ruse to distract from the shadows? Clara froze as she spotted someone slipping out the door, a figure in dark clothing moving quickly, almost too fast for her to register. It felt wrong. Unease twisted in her stomach, urging her to follow. She pushed through the cafe doors just as they closed. The night air was colder now, more alive than before, and Clara picked up her pace. "Hey!" she called, determination lacing her voice. The figure paused, then turned slightly. Clara caught a glimmer of eyes that shone like trapped stars, wide and terrified. "Who are you?" she shouted, but the figure surged away, disappearing into the maze of alleys that lined the back of the cafe. Clara hesitated, a storm of thoughts swirling in her head. She could turn back, find comfort in ignorance, or she could chase whatever truth this stranger held. For a moment, the hesitation gripped her, making her heart pound in her chest. And then she took off, legs pumping beneath her. The alley walls seemed to close in, shadows stretching toward her. The figure weaved through the darkness, but Clara was fueled by a mixture of fear and determination. "Stop!" she yelled again, the words slipping into the night like a desperate plea. But the figure only sped up, and her breath came in sharp bursts. She needed to know. Where could this lead? What secrets awaited? And then it hit her: if she continued down this path, would she face the truth, or would it consume her like it had so many before? With a sudden burst of adrenaline, she pushed harder, commitment replacing hesitation. The chase wasn't just for the stranger anymore, it was for every person in this town, for every smile that belied an aching truth. The figure turned, darting through another alleyway, but Clara could almost taste the answers in the air. What awaited at the end of this dark chase? Would she uncover the horrifying truth behind the town's facade, or would she become the next shadow to vanish? The echo of her footsteps bounced off the brick walls, a cacophony that accompanied her racing heart. Clara rounded a corner, nearly colliding with a dumpster, her breath catching as she fought to regain her footing. The figure ahead, a dart of black, vanished into another alley, just a glimpse, a whisper in the night. "Where are you going?" The question hung in the air, visceral and raw, but the darkness swallowed her words whole. She pushed on, the pungent smell of trash and something metallic clawing at her senses. She couldn't let up. Not now. Not when the truth was so close, like a candle flickering against an abyss. Every twist and turn of the alleys felt like a descent deeper into the storm of secrets brewing in the town. Ahead, the figure paused briefly, barely illuminated by a flickering streetlight at the end of the narrow passage. In that heartbeat, Clara saw a flash of something, a glimmer of a badge, perhaps, or a weapon. A chill ran down her spine, knitting a cold fear in her gut. "Wait!" Clara yelled again, voice cracking, desperation spilling into her plea. "Who are you?" The figure turned, just enough for Clara to see a face contorted with fear and anguish. The stranger held up a hand, the gesture more instinctively defensive than inviting. Another moment of hesitation, and then they bolted again, darting around the corner where the alley split into two directions. Clara bit her lip, her mind racing wildly. Which way? She hesitated, the uncertainty weighing heavily on her. A breath, then she steeled her resolve. "I want to let this go," she muttered, pushing her legs forward. The left felt instinctual, guided by the pounding need for resolution. Clara sprinted on, the air thickening with each step, as if the universe itself conspired to slow her down. Suddenly, a shout pierced through the shadows, an unmistakable voice that made her stomach drop. "Help! Somebody, Timmy!" Her heart stopped, then surged anew, the knowledge propelling her forward with a fierce urgency. The sound came from a cramped passageway that branched off the alley. Without thinking, Clara charged through, nearly slipping on the damp concrete that in the dim light. She saw him, his features pale under the glow of a distant lamp. He was bound, hands tied to a rusty fence, eyes wide with terror. Clara's breath hitched, burning in her throat. "Timmy!" She rushed forward, but something gripped her ankle, strong and unyielding. She looked down, ruddy hands clutching at her, pulling her back. Her pulse quickened, terror flooding her senses as she fought to shake them off. But just then, the figure re-emerged from the darkness. It was a woman, wild-eyed and wild-haired, a specter of despair. "You shouldn't have come here." She gasped, voice too frantic. They're watching. The woman tugged at Clara, trying to drag her back. You have to leave. Before it's too late. But Timmy, he needs help. Clara shouted, feeling the weight of a decision crashing over her. How much could she risk to save one life? The shadows closed in closer, crawling toward them. Clara caught a glimpse of faces peering out, their smiles turned vacuous in the dim light, the laughter from the cafe morphing into something sinister. Hurry! The woman urged, her grip tightening. Would she abandon Timmy, or risk everything to confront the darkness? The dread churning in her stomach intensified, and an awful thought crept through her mind: should she run, or could she face what lay hidden in the shadows of her own town? As the silence thickened, Clara's gaze flickered between Timmy, the pleading woman, and the encroaching darkness. The choice loomed before her, an unanswered question pulsing for resolution. What path would she choose? And would she uncover the truth, or become another lost soul in this town of shadows? Clara's heart thundered in her chest as time stretched around her like a thick fog. The wild-haired woman's grip was fierce, pulling her back toward safety, leaving Timmy exposed in the gloom. The terrified plea from the boy lingered, a haunting refrain in her mind. What do you mean they're watching? Clara asked, desperation clawing her voice. The woman's eyes flicked nervously, scanning the shadows. They see everything. You can't trust anyone here. You have to leave now. No. Clara shouted, the refusal bursting forth like a dam breaking. Timmy is in danger. I can't just abandon him. As if responding to her defiance, the air crackled. Shadows danced closer, twisting around them like living things hungry to devour. Clara turned, searching for Timmy, her eyes filling with dread. He was looking at her, lips trembling, tears streaming down his cheeks. She could feel his fear clawing into her, an invisible tether pulling her towards him. Help me! Timmy cried, his voice breaking. Please! Nobody's going to help you. The woman hissed, panic flooding her expression. You don't understand. Once they see you, you're marked. A howl echoed in the distance, a dreadful sound that turned Clara's blood to ice. The woman yanked her back again, but Clara was already moving forward, breaking free from the grip of fear. I'm coming! She shouted to Timmy, urgency bubbling in her veins. Stop! The woman pleaded, desperation wrestling against Clara's resolve. You don't know what you're up against. Clara's mind raced and she grabbed a rusty chain link, tugging it to pry Timmy free. Her fingers were slick with grime and sweat, each second stretching unbearably. She could hear the approach of what felt like hundreds of eyes, watching, waiting. The shadows seemed to breathe, alive and eager for chaos. Clara! Timmy's voice was both a beacon and a knife twisting in her gut. I'm scared. Hold on, buddy, I'm almost there. Just hang tight. She called back, focusing on the chains that mocked her timing. The snapping sound of a branch broke the tension, sending a violent shiver through her. A figure had stepped into the alley, their outline obscured, but one thing was crystal clear: they meant business. Clara's heart raced as she twisted to look, and she caught a glimpse of something glimmering: a knife. Go! Now! The woman shrieked, her eyes wide with horror as she pulled Clara back. Please! No! Clara fought against her grip again, adrenaline surging. She had come too far to back down now. You don't understand. I want to let him down. Suddenly, the figure advanced, obscured by the darkness, their sinister intentions made manifest. Clara felt a primal instinct kick in, her body flooding with determination. Timmy, I'm almost there. She turned to face the woman. You help me or get out of my way. Stop! A voice boomed, echoing like thunder. Clara's heart dropped. It belonged to the cloaked figure, stepping closer with deliberate intent, shadows flickering like flames around them. The woman's grip slackened, fear radiating off her in waves. You don't know who that is. With one final pull, the chain broke free, clattering to the ground while Clara lunged for Timmy. Their eyes locked, a shared bond forged in desperation and hope. But just as she reached him, the figure raised a hand. Look out. The woman screamed, her warning lost among the growing chaos. Clara's heart raced as the world began to blur around them. The darkness thickened, swallowing the alley whole. Had they really crossed a line they couldn't return from? What were they about to unleash? As Clara yanked Timmy to his feet, the shadows closed in tighter, an overwhelming force ready to extinguish their light. Would they escape, or was this the moment everything was lost? The reality settled around them, heavy and suffocating as they stood at the precipice of terror. What dangers lurked just beyond the edge of this darkness? What fate awaited them both? Clara felt the pull of darkness around her, like a suffocating blanket. She yanked Timmy closer, determined, but the weight of the shadows felt heavier. The cloaked figure surged forward, each step casting deeper fear into her heart. Run! The wild-haired woman shouted, urgency lacing her tone. There's no time. But Clara's feet felt planted in concrete. What if they turned their backs and the boy went under? An image of Timmy fading into nothingness chilled her to the bone. The knife glimmered as the figure lunged, and Clara instinctively shifted, blocking Timmy with her body. Stay behind me! She yelled, adrenaline spiking. Timmy's whimper cut through the crackling tension, each syllable echoing hopelessness. I don't want to die. His words sliced through the chaos, and Clara's chest tightened with the weight of his fear. You won, I promise. The vow spilled out of her, filled with shaky determination, though doubt pounded like a drum in her head. The figure raised the knife high, and Clara's heart leapt, instinct kicking in. She grabbed a trash can lid nearby, flinging it like a shield. Metal clanged as the lid flew into the figure's hand, causing a surprised grunt. Go. Now. The wild-haired woman was right at Clara's side, pushing against the shadows that threatened to consume them. The alley swallowed their movements as they stumbled back, urgency fueling their flight. Timmy was frantic, gripping Clara's hand, his tiny fingers trembling. The darkness clawed at them, the howl of something lurking nearby reminding them they couldn't stop. Clara glanced back, fear crashing over her like waves. The cloaked figure hadn't given up. It stood there, shadows swirling violently, eyes glowing a bright, unnatural hue. It pointed an unmistakable signal and the air snapped, as if the darkness awoke. There. The woman gestured down a narrow side street, just as a blinding flash erupted around them. The shadows contorted like startled animals, and the figure hesitated, some unseen force hindering its advance. No. Clara gasped, realizing what just happened. It's strong enough to hold them back. We have to get through. Go. The woman urged again, pulling Timmy forward. Before it's too late. As they sprinted into the side street, Clara cursed the raging adrenaline coursing through her veins. Each footfall echoed, ringing loudly in her ears as the darkness seemed to stretch away behind them. Hesitant but not defeated, they reached an open space, a small courtyard barely lit by waning streetlights. We can breathe. Clara gasped, pulling Timmy closer. His eyes were wide, filled with a terror she wished she could erase. What now? He whispered, panic rising in his voice. Now we regroup, the wild-haired woman said, her gaze darting as if the shadows could seep through the walls. But don't trust me or anyone. Not yet. The weight of uncertainty hung heavily in the air. Clara's stomach knotted tighter. What do you mean? Those who are marked. The woman hesitated, but the words fell from her lips like stones. They cannot return. Once you're in their sight, your fate is sealed. Clara's mouth ran dry. You mean Timmy? She panic-gripped the boy's shoulder, searching his eyes, trying to grasp the enormity of what lay ahead. Just then, an echo of laughter, a chilling, sinister sound came from the entrance of the alley. It bounced around them, twisting her insides with dread. They're coming for you. Clara's skin prickled. We have to move. Now. And without another word, they slipped deeper into the night, uncertainty gnawing at them with every step. The shadows behind them seemed to breathe, lingering like a cursed promise that if they managed to keep moving, what would they find on the other side? What would waiting in the dark have in store for them next? As fear tightened its grip, the ominous sense of pursuit drew closer, and the chilling realization gripped Clara: was there really any way out of this nightmare? Clara's heart pounded like a war drum in her chest as they fled. The shadows loomed larger behind them, their whispers growing louder, clawing at her sanity. The courtyard felt like a trap, a brief illusion of safety in a world gone mad. Where do we go now? Timmy's voice was tiny, shifting the dread within Clara to a boiling urgency. She glanced around, her instincts screaming. Every corner felt like it was closing in, the walls thin and unyielding. Just keep moving, she said, her voice laced with determination that was beginning to fray. We'll find an exit. The wild-haired woman suddenly stopped, her eyes narrowing as if sensing something. Not yet, she breathed, catching Clara's attention. This place will hold them for now, but it's not safe. We need to know what we're dealing with. Clara shot her a confused look. What do you mean? The darkness, it's alive. There was an edge in the woman's voice. It feeds on fear, and it knows you're marked. We need to uncover what you're hiding before it burrows into your mind. Timmy looked up, his eyes wide with confusion and fear. Hiding? I'm not hiding anything. Clara squeezed his shoulder. It's all right, honey. Just before she could finish, the laughter echoed again, this time deeper, like an insidious riptide drawing them under. It sent chills down her spine and her skin prickled with dread. A frenzied pulse took hold, urging her to flee, to escape before something found them. We have to find cover. Clara blurted. There. She pointed to a half-collapsed shack at the far end of the courtyard. It looked decrepit but offered a better chance than braving the open space. As they rushed toward the shack, the air thickened. The shadows twisted and flickered, flicking like angry tongues, lurking just beyond the edge of the dim light. Clara heard whispers slither around her, slipping into her mind. It was like they were speaking her fears, her insecurities. Every memory of failure and self-doubt clawed at her, threatening to pull her under. Clara. Timmy's voice wrenched her back. She grabbed his hand tighter, propelling them both forward. Inside, the musty stench hit her, mingling with the stale air. The interior was dark and cluttered with debris, narrow beams of moonlight slashing through the cracks. They huddled in a corner, the fear tightening around them like a snake. What is happening? Timmy whimpered. I can't take it. Clara shushed him gently. Just breathe, Timmy. Focus on my voice, okay? But inside, her own steadiness felt precarious. The wild-haired woman leaned closer, her eyes strengthening. This place, it's a nexus. They can't find us if we don't give in to the terror. Easier said than done, Clara muttered, her breath coming in shallow gasps. What do we do? Face it, the woman whispered, more intense now. If you're marked, you have to accept it. There's power in surrendering your fears. You can fight back. Timmy's face crumpled, a mix of confusion and fear. I don't want to be marked. I don't want. The whispers surged, growing louder, shifting like shadows creeping over their hearts. Clara felt the weight pulling at her chest, an overwhelming sense of dread promising that if they didn't face the truth soon, the darkness would win. Clara. Listen, the wild-haired woman urged. Don't let it take you. What is your truth? Clara's mind flared with images, moments of weakness, times she had failed, echoes of abandonment and loss. But beneath it all, there was a flicker, a memory of resilience, of strength she had forgotten. Just before she could grasp it, the shack shook violently. The shadows clawed at the walls, an ominous chorus of rage demanding surrender. And in that instant, as Clara felt Timmy cling tighter, an idea sparked within her. What if she didn't have to face it alone? What if there was a way to wield the darkness instead of being consumed by it? Together she breathed, steel reflecting in her voice. We'll face it together. But before they could formulate a plan, a blinding light flared in the middle of the room. The darkness recoiled, wailing as if struck, and Clara's breath caught. What was it? Was this salvation or another step into the abyss? Clara's heart thudded in her chest as the light pulsed, revealing secrets buried deep in the shadows. She gasped, staring wide-eyed at what lay beyond. What truth awaited them on the other side of that light? Was it a path to freedom or another trap set by the darkness? As fear and hope danced tumultuously inside her, Clara felt a new question peer into the glimmering void. Would they have the strength to wrestle their destiny from the dark? The blinding light flickered, illuminating their surroundings and casting strange, elongated shadows that danced around them. Clara squinted, her mind racing. What if this was a trap? What emerged from that brightness was the unknown, but right now, the gnawing darkness felt more terrifying. Stay close to me, she urged, gripping Timmy's hand tighter. The wild-haired woman mirrored her protective stance, her breath shallow as she peered into the swath of light. A soft hum began to fill the shack, vibrating through the debris like an electric pulse. The shadows recoiled further, cowering as the intensity of the light grew. Clara felt a surge of warmth, every nerve in her body tingling with potential. Yet just as quickly, a cold dread gripped her heart as she recognized that this wasn't merely light, it held memories, echoes of choices she had made, fears she had faced. It's revealing, the wild-haired woman breathed, her voice hushed with awe. This is your truth, Clara. Accept it. What do you mean, my truth? Clara's pulse quickened. If this is some sort of trick, trust it. The woman's plea echoed through the chaos. Your past shapes who you are, but it doesn't define you. Face it head on. Before Clara could respond, the light surged forward, wrapping around them and drawing them closer. In that moment, images flooded her mind as vividly as if they were happening right now. Clara saw her childhood home, flickering behind the wall of brilliance. It was filled with laughter, yet tinged with heartbreak, the empty chair at the dinner table, her parents' hushed arguments. She felt the sting of betrayal and abandonment, yet there was also resilience, moments when she fought back against despair. Timmy, eyes widened in terror, suddenly shrank back. Clara. I don't want to see any of this. Don't fight it, Timmy. She fought to keep her tone steady. It's part of us. It can't hurt us if we face it together. The wild-haired woman nodded, her resolve hardening, a spark igniting in her eyes. As the memories swirled, Clara's breath quickened. She felt the weight of regret crushing her chest again, but alongside it burned a flicker of strength. The battles she had fought, the people she had fought for, they were all part of her. Then, without warning, a shadow darted through the light, a figure cloaked in dark, whispering secrets. It emerged like some sinister specter, mouth twisting into a cruel smile. You think you can face the truth? It jeered, its voice oozing malice. It just makes you weaker, drowning in your own shame. Just give in. No. Clara shouted, surprising herself with the firmness of her voice. I'll never give in. The light roared, a shield against the shadow's suffocating presence. Clara felt the weight lift just slightly. She turned to Timmy and the wild-haired woman. We have to believe. There's power in our truth. A crack of thunder split the air as the darkness lunged, the whispers becoming a deafening screech, clawing through Clara's mind, reaching for her insecurities. Yet within her, a fire ignited, fierce and unyielding. Together. They shouted in unison, their voices a clarion call against the dark tide. Clara felt a sense of unity, a bond forged in shared trauma, and it bolstered her resolve. The light consumed everything, spilling into the corners of the shack and illuminating the very fabric of their fears. The whispers began to fade, replaced by the strength of their collective breath, pounding like a drum against the night, but just as hope threatened to overwhelm, the darkness drew back, hissing with rage. The light solidified into a beam, looming large between them and their hidden truths. Clara's heart raced, the shadows would not retreat easily. Find the truth. The wild-haired woman urged, pushing Clara towards the light. Face it. It's the only way. What would Clara find in the depths of her own heart? Would she grasp the strength she sought, or would the last remnants of fear pull her back into the abyss? The light flickered once more, a tantalizing invitation that beckoned them closer, but she hesitated. Could they truly confront the truth without losing themselves? The shadows stirred again, dark and restless, even as the light promised salvation. Clara hesitated on the edge of revelation, a tremor of doubt creeping in, and in that fraught moment what awaited them on the brink of illumination. Clara felt her breath catch in her throat as the light pulsated like a heartbeat, urging her closer to its embrace. The shadows danced violently, their clawed fingers stretching out, almost pleading, like 1,000 lost souls seeking refuge. Timmy's grip tightened on her hand, quaking with fear. She could sense his anxiety, thick like fog in the air, threatening to suffocate her resolve. Clara, Timmy whimpered, his eyes reflecting the chaos. I don't want to see. What if it's something terrible? She turned to him, forcing a reassuring smile though her heart raced. It's okay, Timmy. Remember what the lady said? We can face it. Together. The wild-haired woman stepped closer, her voice steady, calling over the din of their doubt. You have to want this, Clara. Your truth is where your power lies. Embrace it. The shadows hissed at them, diminishing the warm glow around them. Clara's heart beat a war drum. What lay within those memories? The bright moments felt like faint stars next to the crushing darkness she felt creeping closer, a relentless tide that threatened to drown them all. Then, just like that, the light swirled until it formed a corridor, beckoning her forward. Clara hesitated, her thoughts racing. What if she wasn't ready? What if the shadows saw her as prey, unaware of the strength forged within her? Go. The wild-haired woman urged, her voice a layering of urgency and support. It's time to unravel the truth. Clara took a deep breath, resolved now. She stepped forward, pulling Timmy along, feeling the pulse of that light guide her through. As she stepped into the corridor, the world around her shifted. Vivid images erupted, roots of memories grasping at her like angry vines. She found herself back in the aged living room of her childhood home, colors more vivid than she remembered. The laughter echoed louder, brighter, almost suffocating in its sharpness. But alongside it was a knife edge of pain. She wandered through the scenes, witnessing moments she had long buried. Friends leaving, laughter turned into whispers of betrayal, love that slipped through her fingers like sand. Clara. A voice called. She turned and saw her mother, a weary figure adorned with exhaustion and shadows in her eyes. Don't let it take you. It lied to you. The apparition of her mother flickered and faded. Distraught, Clara blinked, tears welling. Mom, no. No. Timmy echoed, his small voice breaking in her ear. Don't listen to it. But it was too late. The shadows rushed at her like a tornado, swirling and roaring until all she could remember was fear, disappointment, and discarded dreams. Every hurt, every regret dripped into the space around her like tar, weighing her down, holding her in place. What are you afraid of, Clara? The dark figure, now looming over her, sneered. Its voice echoed of her worst moments, layering on the anguish. Is it the loss? The pain? The love that turned to ash? I want to let you take me. Clara screamed, insistent, pushing through the darkness. She turned back to the light, now flickering in confusion. It seemed weaker, thrown off balance. Timmy. She called out, panic rising. I'm here. I want to let go. He shouted, determination shining through despite the terror. Find your truth. The wild-haired woman insisted, her spirit unwavering. It's there deep inside. You have to dig deeper. Clara dug her heels in against the shadows, forcing the pain of the past to meld into something she could handle. It wasn't just fear, it was her strength, her perseverance. She drew from every flicker of hope that had ever ignited her spirit, then she remembered something that burned bright amid the chaos. I am not defined by my past. I'm stronger than this. With one final push, the light roared back to life, igniting a fierce will that surged through her. Shadows screeched and recoiled, burning away from the piercing brilliance. Clara watched, her heart pounding, as illusions shattered around her like glass. Just then, a different shadow emerging caught her eye. It was darker than the rest, cloaked in despair, whispering in a language she might finally understand. That was her new battle. As she stood at the threshold, light blazing before her and dark whispers curling at her feet, a question resonated inside her: would she risk everything to step into the brilliant unknown, or would the lurking shadows pull her back into a world of silence and shame? What awaited her in this newfound clarity, and could she truly banish the darkness lurking within? Clara's heart pulsed in time with the light that surrounded her. Every heartbeat echoed with an urgency that fueled her courage. She took a step forward, easily breaking the threshold that separated her from the light and the chilling embrace of the shadows. The air crackled with energy as she felt the warmth envelop her like a protective cloak. Timmy's small hand felt steady in hers, a reminder of the bond they shared. She knew that together, they were stronger than any darkness lurking in the recesses of her mind. We can do this, she whispered to him, her voice barely audible over the hum of tension. But the darker shadow, that whisperer of despair, was patient. It curled around her like smoke, invading her senses. You think you can escape? It hissed. This light is nothing without the shadows. Embrace me. Accept your failures, the betrayal. No. Clara shouted defiantly, shaking her head as if swatting away a pesky insect. She had lived too long defined by her mistakes, her losses. She wouldn't go back to that place. I refuse to accept that. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if her words had stung. But then they surged forward, a wave of darkness threatening to drown her. Yet Clara stood firm, focusing on the light. It flickered with a growing intensity, urging her on. She began to feel it, the truth illuminated within her an undeniable force, a fire rising from the ashes of her despair. Timmy, she called softly. Remember when we faced the storm? We made it through together. This is just like that. Right. I'm with you, Clara. Timmy's voice rang with certainty, a light of his own battling against the shadows that encircled them. Clara was overwhelmed by the flickers of memories that flared up, bright and sharp. Moments of happiness broke through, family game nights, birthday cakes, laughter resonating as music filled their hearts. Each vivid memory became a stepping stone, propelling her forward. I won't let them take this from me. The shadows hissed, furious. They swirled faster, colliding against the light with a ferocity that threatened to extinguish it. Clara felt the panic clawing at her throat but pushed through it, focusing on the warmth illuminating the darkest corners of her soul. A pulse of determination surged as she screamed, "You are not my truth." Every single wave of doubt crumbled around her, collapsing like rotting leaves in the wind. The oppressive darkness began to shrink, shrinking back from her burgeoning resolve. Clara took another step toward the light, feeling bolder. Then she heard it, an echo from deep within, a distant whisper that morphed into a defiant roar, "You are valid. You are enough." In a brilliant flash, the light erupted fiercely, enveloping her and Timmy. The shadows screamed and writhed, retreating from the radiant truth that soared like a phoenix from the ashes of Clara's past. But just as the darkness began to dissolve, the heavy shadow, that dark figure, lingered, its presence defiant and unnerving. Your journey isn't over, Clara. You've only begun to scratch the surface. The voice was sinister, filled with a chilling promise. What waits beyond this light is even darker. Clara couldn't shake the feeling of dread, a shiver racing down her spine. She stood frozen, her heartbeat a steady drum in her ears, knowing she could not yet drop her guard. What could this darker truth be? Could she transcend this battle, or was it merely the calm before a tempest? Timmy squeezed her hand, grounding her. The journey they faced was not an easy one, but she had come too far already to turn back. Together, they would have to leap into whatever lay ahead, but what awaited them on the other side of that shimmering threshold? Clara hesitated at the threshold, the shimmering light stretching out before her like the dawn after a long night. Shadows swirled threateningly at their edges, still clinging defiantly to their forms. Timmy's hand squeezed hers tightly, his small presence grounding her in the swirling chaos of emotion and uncertainty. "What if it's dangerous?" he whispered, his wide eyes reflecting both fear and unwavering trust. Clara took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of strength she had. "We've faced danger before, Timmy. This is no different. The truth, no matter how hard, is our path to freedom." Her voice was steady, a bulwark against her own inner turmoil. Together, Timmy nodded, determination shining through his fear. With that, they stepped forward, crossing the threshold into the blinding brilliance. The light surged around them, filling the void that had threatened to consume their hope. Clara felt warmth wash over her, a sensation like the spring sun melting away the winter chill. Her chest tightened, the anticipation mingling with fear. But she was ready. They were ready. As they moved further into the light, Clara saw scenes unfolding, moments that defined not just the person she was, but the better person she could become. With every step, images burst to life, her mother's laughter echoing through the house, friends standing beside her in solidarity, the day she first held Timmy and knew she had someone worth fighting for. But amid the beauty, the shadows flickered dangerously close, and the darker figure emerged once more. "You can't escape your truth, Clara," it hissed, its voice a creeping fear that sought to undermine her newfound strength. "What you see around you is a lie wrapped in light. How can you trust it?" Clara felt a chill run through her, but she pressed on. "I can choose to reject you," she declared, confidence imbued with the warmth of her experiences. "I know who I am. Every flaw, every hurt, it's part of my story. But it doesn't define me." The shadows writhed, the dark figure recoiling momentarily, and Clara felt Timmy's hand tighten around her own. In that moment, she realized that this battle was not just hers. It belonged to every solitary soul shackled by their fears, every person who had hidden behind a mask of forced smiles. "Face it together," Clara shouted, the conviction spilling from her heart. "Together, we expose you." "Together," Timmy echoed, igniting a small smile as they turned to face the encroaching darkness shoulder to shoulder. The light between them pulsed with newfound energy. In a wave of collective strength, Clara and Timmy pushed forward. The shadows shrieked, swirling violently, but they were undeterred, lashing out with fierce determination. "We are more than this fear," Clara cried, and Timmy added, "You can't hold us." The darkness erupted in a boiling tempest, a deep growl resonating through the air around them. Yet the light surged brighter, wrapping them in protective warmth. The shadows began to dissipate, shrieking as the brightness pierced through their defenses. Clara felt the chaos of emotions swirling but knew she was no longer afraid. "We choose hope," she shouted, and the chanting of everyone she had saved, every soul who believed in freedom, echoed in her heart. And then, at once, the darkness exploded in an eruption of incandescent light. It caved in on itself, collapsing like a dying star until only their radiant glow remained, shimmering in the aftermath like the petals of an unfurling flower. Staring at the bright clarity surrounding them now, Clara felt Timmy bounce beside her, his joy palpable. "We did it!" he gasped, his voice filled with wonder. "Yes, we did," Clara whispered in awe, relief flooding her senses. "We faced the shadows, and together we found our light." As they stood in the afterglow, she noticed something beautiful. A soft shimmering lay ahead, a path leading into a world that felt alive and full of possibilities. They stepped forward, uncertainty lingering but hope igniting within their hearts. They were not just escaping the darkness, they were embracing the light of their own truth, and everything that lay ahead seemed promising. Clara looked down at Timmy, her precious boy, and smiled, her heart swelling with love and pride. Whatever lies ahead, we face it together. And so they strode hand in hand into a bright future, determined to carve their own path, unmasking the truth of happiness for themselves and everyone they loved, leaving behind the remnants of shadows forever. Now is your moment to shape your own story. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next thrilling adventures coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. It's time to unite and connect. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting resolution. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of showing support for the community.